Hello and welcome to TSK F1. My name's Rich and this is your daily dose of F1 news. Day after the Australian Grand Prix, lots to sort of get into. I don't really have a leading story today because just lots and lots of stuff went down in Australia that we need to sort of chat about and unpack and just make sense of. And first and foremost, really, what I'm thinking about talking about is generally the organisation of the Australian Grand Prix and if things need to be done in that regard. And we'll get into why I think certain things might need to happen with that. But please do make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing down below. Good morning, everyone. Now, first of all, I don't know if anyone saw the news, but basically, people got out onto the track. People got out onto the track in Melbourne, and this was before the end of the race. All reports are saying this that before the end of the race, there were people. I think it was down towards turn 11, and they'd got through the fencing and were on the track. Even if it's the edge of the track, they were on it. And to me, while there are certain things that really need to be said. It's not to do with the marshals, like, in my opinion, because the marshals can only do so much. And if you've got loads of idiots trying to get onto the track, there's not much they can do. If you've ever been to a motorsport event, it's not like there are thousands of marshals everywhere to stop people doing as they wish, and they're there to try and keep people safe and things like that. But to me, it does represent a gigantic breach because some of you may be old enough to remember certain times where people have gotten out onto the circuit. Silverstone and Hockenheim are ones that I have in my memory from, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, that kind of time. I remember that happening. And it's just so extremely dangerous, and it's a huge, pardon the pun, it's a huge red flag for the organisation of the Australian Grand Prix. There should be next to no way that a normal viewer of the race can get onto the track. Now, this is different, in my opinion, to once the race has finished. If they open up the gates, as you can kind of see above me there, if they open up gates and things like that, and then they open it up and it's the end of the race and the cars aren't going around anymore and they allow a little bit of a track invasion. I, as a spectator multiple times, actually enjoy that. I am nerdy enough to feel like there's something special just to get to walk on Silverstone when I have done before at the end of the race, when it's completely safe and there are no cars going around and things like this. Now, this is something en masse that you'd have seen back in the probably like the 80s, early 90s, and they put a stop to it. And then in the last 10 years or so, you've seen places open up the gates after the race and allow people onto the track. And even still, some tracks have been fined for doing so because they have to ensure the security of the paddock and things like this. And it's just a huge issue for me that somehow it wasn't two people. It wasn't two people. It was many, many people that did it, climbing the fences and all kinds of stuff. And it's just wrong. To be fair, it doesn't matter the reason. It doesn't matter the reason for it. It should never happen, because for some reason it takes this kind of idiot to have a brain fart and they end up dead, right? Because I don't know why people don't understand that motorsport's dangerous. And even if it's a cool down lap, we've seen crashes on cool down laps, like actual big crashes and things like this. So yeah, it's just stupid, and the Australian organisers need to do better. And they've got until towards the end of June to investigate and present a report to the FIA over this particular issue. And now, and to sort of demonstrate how dangerous it is, I found this in amongst my searching this morning. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Um, um, we have someone getting hit. This was from Kevin Magnussen's crash. Chap there saying Kevin Magnussen's his favourite driver while wearing a Mercedes T, but we'll ignore that. But he was hit by a piece of debris. And that is a fair old chunk of debris, isn't it? And it hit him in his arm and it caused a deep cut and things like this. And he was behind all the protective, fences and barriers, but apparently it flew up and over up and over the fencing. And I think there are multiple reasons why there are big questions to be answered by the organisers. I don't think anyone's calling for I don't think anyone's calling for the end of like the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne, but they really need to sort of review what's happened and how that's happened, because there as well in that area, they have the big fences, don't they? That are sort of, I don't know how to describe it. They go straight up and then back out over the track almost, don't they? To try and catch things. Maybe they're going to have even higher fences next year. I don't know. But stuff needs to happen, because honestly, I saw that and I don't know if anyone will be aware of it. And I know it's a little bit dramatic to think so, but it made me think about Le Mans. And it's the reason why Mercedes were out of motorsport for so long, was because there was a gigantic crash that killed many people at Le Mans, with debris and engine and everything going into the crowd. And even though that's a relatively small piece of car, it just reminds you that motorsport's dangerous. And when you go to somewhere like Silverstone and it feels like you're really far away from the track, it's bad. And I was just about to say that, Keith. If I remember rightly, Keith, was it the Martin Brundle incident down into turn 3? Is it turn 3 or turn 4 at the end of the, 1, 2, 3? Turn 3 at the end there. I feel like it was Martin Brundle's crash, and a tyre went through the gap in the fence. But this is my point. If that guy got injured behind the fence, all I'll say is, and I know there's only 12 people here, if you're ever at a motorsport event, don't think it's a clever idea to go the other side of the fence. You can get hurt behind it. The consequences are much more dire to go beyond it, And this guy was doing everything right. I'm not saying anything was particularly wrong with this guy is just sat there watching the race and there's a crash, right? Yeah, it was around that time, because it went literally through the gap, didn't it? And actually, I seem to remember, it wasn't that it was all hush-hush, Keith, but it wasn't really reported on. Much like a few years ago in Canada, and this wasn't long ago, a marshal got killed by a recovery vehicle. And that wasn't really publicized very much. It was one of those like front loaders ran over the marshal, But I think it just needs to be. I know this is a really boring take, but it just needs to be sort of reiterated how dangerous motorsport and stuff is, because it really, really is. And you've got to be careful. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've not been very successful in getting images this morning, the images I wanted, so I've only got these two ready, but we can talk about different stuff. Now, Arctic said initially, and I did clock it, are you going to chat about Lewis's team not coming to celebrate? Could there be some issues at Mercedes? Now, what I've read, and I did read a lot about this, obviously, Jambo, yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, well, no, Gerard, but they can always review stuff. It's not it would be reckless to look at it and go, well, it went that way, didn't it? We can't do it about that. You've got to look at it. You've got to look at it, haven't you? You can't just ignore it. But anyway, so backstory. Lewis Hamilton, after the race, it's on video, and he's got his helmet, or he's taking his helmet. No, he's just taking his helmet off, and he walks over, and he literally, he says, with a smile on his face, he says, "Where the F are my team?" And they don't, like, basically nobody from Mercedes is there. You know, where they like jump into the team and they're giving it hugs and things right after the race, where they're in Parc Ferme. And then later in an interview, he says, how much does this, he's asked how much it means, and he says, I don't know how much it means to my team because I haven't seen anyone yet. Now, I've heard a couple of stories here, and sadly for most people, it's the boring option. What I've read is, one, it was basically, they can be around the same thing here. One, it was a logistics thing, very literally a logistics thing, that the team were already packing down, but because of, like, the red flags, they were already packing down, so that, like, the core of the team, if you like, were already breaking down the garage, if you like, because they really do crack on very quickly. I don't know if you're as nerdy as me and have looked up, like, logistics in F1. They do, like, break down everything very, very quickly and leave. And the other story I heard was related actually to this, that there was somewhat of a security breach, and the vast majority of the team were back at the garage ensuring, like, the integrity of the garage, that people couldn't get in and things like this, which would kind of tally with the story that basically everyone was at the garage for an actual reason. I think media obviously like to grab hold of it and start saying, oh, well, everyone's falling out with Lewis Hamilton, nobody likes Lewis Hamilton, and it's not the case, because all of the radio messages, you know, you got Toto, you got Bono over the radio, and they were celebrating with him. I think there was a genuine sort of, they have truly strict stuff to keep to, and maybe Mercedes just dropped the ball a little bit logistically and stuff. Why Toto couldn't walk down? Because he's not going to be loading pallets, is he? I don't know, and I can't answer that unless there really was a bit of a security breach, and then in the nicest way possible, Toto Wolff has other things to worry about as well, doesn't he? If security was compromised. And there is and was quite a big investigation and accusation and stuff, as we've already discussed, about the organisers and security in many parts of the track yesterday. So I think it's a non-story. It just doesn't look good on the cameras. I don't know what you guys think. Please share your opinions. Do you think there's more to it? Am I being naive in believing the general consensus that it was actually some kind of security breach or logistical thing, but basically the team were rightly back at the garage? Now, what I did want to talk about, I'll just take this off. I really don't think they will miss celebrating due to feelings hurt. Logistics reasons sounds more than it. Yeah, and I believe that, Matthias. I do believe that. It seems odd to me that Toto, like, I won't lie, I didn't see the podium. Did anyone see anyone at the podium? Because Toto's normally there with a grin on his face and stuff. You saw him anyway. The cameras were on. They were on the garage and stuff, and they were all smiles and stuff. So yeah, I think it's just people making a bit of a Kardashian situation out of it. Now, what I did want to talk about were the red flags, because we had, I'm trying to remember now, we had red flag for gravel, we had red flag for... Oh, I've already forgotten. Magnussen? And then we had red flag for, obviously, the end. And I was thinking about it, and I've got to say, in the moment, I felt like the red flag for Albon... That was right, isn't it? And the gravel, basically. I thought that was strong. But I was thinking back, and your minds may help me with this one. There was a race, and I think it was Pierre Gasly, and he was following someone, and a bit of gravel hit his hand, if you remember, and like he was in loads of pain with it. Or was it Roman Grosjean? It was ages ago. And it did make me think that maybe... So, imagine they're going pretty quickly through that corner, aren't they? Imagine going through that corner at, I don't know, 120 miles an hour, say, and one bit of gravel, it becomes basically a bullet, doesn't it? And probably it could puncture through radiators and all kinds of stuff, you know. So in hindsight, I'm thinking it was, you know, like David Coulthard in the commentary was really, really critical of it. Really, really critical of it, saying that it was health and safety gone mad. But I don't know. The thought of a piece of gravel hitting me at 100 odd miles an hour doesn't fill me with happiness and joy. But would it be deadly, or would it just hurt? I don't know. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like the best of ideas, does it? And if some gravel gets like chucked up and goes into the airbox or something, I don't know. But was it over the top? I'd love to know your opinions on that first red flag with the gravel. Was it over the top or wasn't it? Let me know in the comments. And then we had the second one, and we've already seen this guy here. I'm right, the Magnussen one was the second one. I'm struggling to remember. We've already seen this guy got injured by debris, and he was behind the fences, right? And you did see when Magnussen hit the wall there that there was a lot of debris all over the track. Now, if it's carbon and stuff, then that'll slice through a tyre like a hot knife through butter. And also, it was the actual wheel rim, wasn't it? It wasn't just the tyre carcass. It was the actual wheel rim that had smashed to pieces and the spokes of the wheel and stuff. Now, that, I don't know what F1 wheels are made out of these days, but a big bit of metal, I mean, Felipe Massa in Hungary. People were saying it was never a red flag. I'm inclined to think it was, you know, because that wheel won't have exploded into tiny bits of metal, will it? Like tiny bits of metal. There will still be sort of residual bits. Now, I do have a picture of... what did I have a picture of? I put it on the sausage curb. Yeah. So, there we go. Bring it up for you guys. I can bring up the screen. There we go. So they're the pictures. So yeah, you had the gravel one initially with Albon, and then the second one there. Yeah, I mean, look, it just explodes the rear right, and these guys. Oh no! Once the pack has picked up the safety car, they're lapping so slowly the marshals with Bruins would have had enough time to clear up. A red flag. Preserves racing laps, so I'm okay with a red flag. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, that the red flag preserves racing laps. And I'm not being funny, what people would have done for more racing laps at the end, and I'm gonna get onto that. Actually, you've just reminded me, Keith. I'm gonna get onto that, but I mean, the Alpines. Well. The only person commenting, Keith, is okay with a red flag, so we'll go with that. I was okay with them. At the time, I thought that the Albon one was a bit safe, if you like, but it made sense to get the road sweeper out there for a couple of passes and get that gravel picked up there. Now, another thing I want to talk about. No, I want every single time. Look, I will say, every time there's a red flag, I want a standing start. Every time. Every time. I do not want a rolling start ever after a red flag. And I can justify this. What happens on a rolling start? Nothing. So I want a standing start because there's a chance of something. That's how I feel about that. You're guaranteed basically nothing is happening on a rolling start. So I want standing starts. Please, on all red flags. And I will... That is my opinion, and it won't change. Because how many times did we used to watch, for example, safety car because of rain, and then them do rolling starts instead of making them do a standing start in the rain? I hated it. Hated it. Make them do standing starts. Best drivers in the world, get them doing it. So that's my opinion pretty strongly, Matthew. It's fine for you to feel differently on it, but that's how I feel about it. Now, what I did want to get into, and it's probably a good thing nobody's watching this morning because I will probably annoy people with this one, but the whole situation, like I'm going to put another tweet up on screen right now for you guys because I feel really strongly about this. Like, really strongly about this. Whether you do or not, that's absolutely fine. So, I'm firmly in this camp. Safety car finishes are absolutely fine and always have been. Free practice sessions are fine and always have been. Sprint races are a redundant qualification correction. Stop effing with Formula One. I feel very, very strongly about all three of those points because every piece of action anyone has ever mentioned to me in a sprint race is a direct detractor from the main race. The only bits of action that have ever happened in sprint races could have happened in the main race. So all sprint races do is take away from the main race. Free practice sessions, if people don't watch them anyway, then are they going to really watch something else? Probably not. And safety car finishes, we've had tons of them. And we had one yesterday, funnily enough. And the thing I'm taking massive... Look, I've been thinking about this quite a lot, right? And Max Verstappen probably summed it up best. That what's happening with Formula One isn't the DNA of Formula One. Right, and I firmly agree with it. What is happening, right? And again, feel free to disagree with me, but this is my opinion, an unwavering opinion. What's happening to Formula One is a modern, short attention span, dramatic load of nonsense. It is, and it's becoming more and more and more manufactured than it ever has been to appease people who won't be fans in 10 years. And I'm very strong about that. The people these things are being brought into to entertain, they won't be fans in 10 years. Because they won't care. Because Max Verstappen will have retired, Charles Leclerc will have retired, or whatever. And I am getting absolutely... Red flag! Red flag that! We need racing at the end. No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't. We've had the race. We're having the race. This is the race. This is the rule. You've got a race to the finish line. Right. So what... Right. This is the ridiculousness of it. We're going to go to Australia, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to have 3 practice sessions. We're going to have qualifying. And then we're going to have the Grand Prix. Mega. How long's the Grand Prix this week, Rich? 1 lap. It's 1 lap. What? It's 1 lap. Yeah, but that's stupid. Exactly. 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 No, but we must race at the end. Who wants a one-lap Grand Prix? Literally nobody. So why are we... What is this weird thing? We've had the... This is the Grand Prix. Why must we always finish racing? These are the rules. This is Formula One. This is how it's always been. Why must it be this way? Now, look, I said yesterday on the watch along, if they're doing... This is what you get, right, when you try and dumb down a sport and don't think it through. That's what happened yesterday. Trying to dumb down a sport for short attention spans to make it entertaining for people who like TikToks and watch for 30 seconds, who won't care in 2 years about Formula One. This is what you get, because they're throwing red flags as quickly as possible so that they can finish while racing, and then they're going, oh, boys, we've run out of laps. Well, what do we do when we do that? Well, we finish the race. Yeah, but that means finishing under the safety car. No one thought of that. No one thought of that. Honestly, I'm sick of it. I am sick of it, right? And this is what's annoying me. The FIA have created, right? The FIA have created their own issue by making up their own rules, right? And I'm not talking, well, I'm partly talking about Abu Dhabi, right? Because again, because it all goes back to situations like that. I don't care about Max Verstappen, Red Bull, Lewis Hamilton or Mercedes. I was basically distraught in Abu Dhabi because they made it up. Anyone who says differently doesn't know Formula One, and I don't care if that pisses people off. They made it up, and I was distraught about it in that moment. And my stepdaughter, Paris, was there. I was devastated because I was shouting at the screen, they're manipulating this, they're making up rules now. Don't come with me with any and all cars bullshit. And I am swearing because I care so much about it. Don't come at me with that. Everyone knew what it meant, and everyone still knows what it meant, right? But it was done so that they could have the highlights of the final lap and say, look how amazing our sport is. And then someone will watch yesterday's race and go, what they're doing? I've got a clue for you. They don't know. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So what I said here, I know it's on my other channel, but I feel all of that strongly. Formula One, I'm fine with Formula One moving with the times. I lived through the 2000s. How many different qualifying formats did they try before they landed on this qualifying format? 5, 6, 7? I'm fine with that. Test these things out, see how they go, see what's going on with them. Does it work better? Is it more entertaining? Do we end up with the set like qualifying? I remember I was quite a fan of. I know a lot weren't, but I was quite a fan of the single run qualifying, and some of you might not remember that, where it was the driver got one hot lap, and you watched qualifying, and that's what it was. So I think it was like the fastest from free practice was the last driver. So or was it championship standings? So the championship leader was the last lap, all eyes on them, and it was highest pressure possible. I quite liked it. Is it better now? Probably, but I quite liked it as a thing, right? I know. So as a point, I'm absolutely fine with Formula One moving with the times and going, okay, let's do this. Maybe let's do that, but never, ever, ever, ever at the cost of the integrity of the sport. That, look, I appreciate you all, I've only got 19 people watching me. I'm not one of these huge creators that's lucky enough to have a fan base of thousands of people, right? But honestly, Formula One is ingrained in me completely. Like some of my, and I don't think people get this when they're saying, you're a so-and-so fanboy. I'm not. I'm a Formula One fanboy. It's so ingrained in me that some of my earliest memories as a fucking human being are Formula One. And when I watch races like that yesterday, and people are saying certain things in chat, and just like, my sport's dying. My sport is dying. Honestly. And I know that sounds dramatic, but look, how passionate do people get about football? How crazy do people get about football? Formula One is my thing. Like, I get massively passionate about it, and I'm sick to death of just trying to pacify a potential fan base that is a mile wide and a millimeter deep. You know, I'm bored of it. And I'm not being a gatekeeper. I'm not being elitist. My stepdaughter, brand new fan to Formula One. I am so encouraging of asking questions and learning about the sport, getting involved and seeing things. I'm very encouraging of that. And I want that. But don't come and watch half a race and then start making ridiculous, like, oh, why didn't they just add a lap? Because it's never been that way, Karen. That isn't what they do. This is the sport. And we said it yesterday, right? And this isn't a knock, right? If you prefer shorter format racing, go and watch British Touring Car. There's nothing wrong with British Touring Car, but it's not Formula One. There are other forms of racing that might suit your attention span, and that's fine. Because it's a shorter format, you might get what you want from it. Go and watch NASCAR, go and watch IndyCar. Maybe it'll suit what your attention span is. That's fine. I don't understand. But why? For what, Gerard? For what? I don't understand. Sprint races, for what? What have sprint races done? At all? Ever? What have they done? Well, I could go on about this, and I have a lot. I am yet to see anything that's happened in a sprint race that has benefited a weekend, because the sprint races, and you can't tell me different, right? The sprint races, in every situation where you have found them entertaining, has taken action directly away from the main race. The action you saw and perceive in the sprint race would have been in the main race had the sprint race not happened. So what's better? To have the short race that people can watch and then get rid of the feature race? No. No. That's not Formula One. And I'm proper ranting now because I'm honestly sick of it. What are we going to end up with? And again, I'm not knocking on British Touring Car at all. Are we going to end up with 3 sprint races at an F1 weekend on a Sunday? Are we going to end up with 3 25-minute races because that's all people can watch anything for these days? That people can't actually sit and watch a race for an hour and a half, 2 hours? Is that what we're going to end up with? Honestly, I can't. And that, again, that isn't it isn't a knock on British Touring Car. It's just a good example because British Touring Car knows what it is, and it sets out to be exactly what it is. It moves with the times, or tries to, with its hybrid and things like this. It does what it should do, and it does it well. Formula One, it's like, oh, what's trending? Guys, Charles trending. What position's he in? 3rd? Oh, there's that debris, isn't there, on the outside of turn 5? VSC. Then maybe they'll get some kind of chance. It is like that. How can and it's starting to feel like that, and it makes me want to vomit. Where it feels genuinely like that's the kind of stuff that's having. And this has happened, by the way. There is a precedence for this in sport, and it happened in IMSA. I've seen it. You might not watch it, but I've seen it in IMSA. I've seen it in NASCAR, where they throw bogus full course cautions for look. I've seen it happen. Whether it still happens, I remember very much watching a Daytona 24 Hours, and towards the end, nothing wrong. A bit of debris that had been there for about 3 hours, full course caution, because the leaders were on the same lap at the end of 24 Hours. And that gave us 5 minutes of the 3 leaders racing at the end of the race. No. If a genuine issue, if something genuine has happened, fine, okay. I don't want drivers hurt. I don't want the public hurt. I don't want anything like that. But racing is racing. And if it's finishing under safety car, tough shit. You should have done better in the previous hour and a half of Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, it ended under safety. He had his lead, right? Let's be real about it. He had his lead. He still won, but you know what I mean. If Max Verstappen didn't win yesterday, Lewis and Max, there's a lot of history there. But if Lewis Hamilton would have got in front of Max Verstappen yesterday because of manipulation, horrific. The fans that won't be involved in 2 years will have loved it. That'll have been brilliant for them. For people like me and who love the sport, it's almost tear-inducing with how manufactured it is. I just can't. I could rant. I could literally sit here all day ranting about this, and I've just noticed I've been live 40 minutes because I care so much about it, and it's painful. It's just painful because nearly anyone who comes at me with anything to do with what I'm talking about shows that they've got the depth of a paddling pool when it comes to Formula One. And I can recite the last 30, 40 years of Formula One and why it's stupid, all of this. And I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but the sport was here before and it was incredible before. We don't need to bastardize everything for some TikToks. We don't need to do it as a sport. I don't know. Look, prove me wrong all day. Well, this is the thing. Tell me I'm wrong about the sprint races. Tell me I'm wrong. The most exciting sprint races you've ever seen, they were all qualification corrections. Right? Sergio Perez, where did he finish yesterday? Where did he finish yesterday? Did he finish 5th in the end? Sergio Perez? I know he got driver of the day, which was ridiculous, by the way. Who's picking Sergio Perez as driver of the day yesterday? Who? Do people possess eyes and any sense? Like Norris and Hülkenberg are miles clear. But anyway, P5, Sergio Perez yesterday, right? Instead, he does that in a sprint race. It's more exciting, isn't it? But, right, if you had a sprint race yesterday in Australia, Perez starts P5 and comes second. Excitement taken away from the race. You've gotten rid of all of that excitement. Just that's my point. That's my point. If you take yesterday, and Perez is the perfect example yesterday, because we've seen Max do it and we've seen Lewis do it in sprint races. I seem to remember Alonso having a particularly good one, right? It's a qualification correction. So you've got um you've got Perez passing all these people that's in the main Grand Prix, and we can have those exciting points, right? But if you put a sprint race on yesterday, that happens in the sprint race. It doesn't happen in the Grand Prix. So everyone goes, sprint races are great. No. You've just taken the action from the main Grand Prix. Why people can't see it, I don't know. I do not know. It's lost on me. I don't get it. It's completely lost. But it was great. Perez came from the back. Yeah, he'd have done that in the main Grand Prix and would have had that excitement in that as well. But instead, we've got a more boring Grand Prix because the drivers are where they have normalised to, so no one's going to pass anyone because they've already had a race. Like, I don't know why people can't see it. I really can't. Sprint races, I like the idea of something fresh. We got a bit more bang for your buck at Silverstone, but ultimately it was meaningless. Yeah, I'm just not on board with them now, John. I was the same. I was like, oh, let's give it a go. Much like the qualifying formats that I mentioned. Much like those. Oh, let's give it a go. Now, I don't see what value a sprint race brings other than people with short attention spans. I don't see it. No one involved in Formula One wants them apart from the commercial rights holders. It's such a weird thing to me. And the only difference is they're shorter. They don't do anything inherently different. So do we end up with 3 tiny races? I don't know. Like I say, someone did say to me yesterday, I don't particularly remember it. Always a comparison to other sports too, because they work there. Joker Laps work in Rallycross. Yeah. Someone gave me an example yesterday. I think it was Max and Charles at Imola. So beyond qualification corrections, you're giving me one battle in a sprint race out of the many we've had. My driver of the day, Norris or Hulk? Probably Norris. Exactly, John. Exactly. This is my point. But that's what... I'm just fed up of it. And it's happening more and more. I love bringing F1 content to you guys. I love doing watch-alongs. But sometimes... Like, this whole... Look, I'll say it, happily. John said similar, but I'll say it. Finishing under safety car was fine until 2 or 3 years ago. No one cared. What's changed? No one cared because everyone knew. What's changed? I don't... For what, Gerard? You've said that like 3 times now, dude, but for what? Saturday sprint races at half the rounds. For what? I'm yet to see anyone go, well, apart from, I liked them. For what? I don't... it would be the beginning of me stopping watching Formula One if they have that many sprint... I don't care about them. Exactly, Ryan. Exactly, Ryan. They get rid of all of that. I could go on about this so much. I really could. Sprint races can, but this is the thing though. This is the thing. There may have been a sigh and oh well, that's it. But it it was fair with respect to a full weekend of strategy and energy going into 50+ lap. Look, who wants... This is a legitimate question. Who wants 1 lap Grand Prix? From now on, right, FIA, Formula One have just announced every Grand Prix will be 1 lap. How many of you want that? How many of you want that? How many? I should do a poll. I should do a poll, right? Who wants 1 lap GP? Yes, no. There you go. I'm not expecting anyone to actually answer that. But who wants a 1 lap Grand Prix? Right? And even the question of that is ridiculous. Right? You're all sat there going, well, that's a stupid question, Rich. Is it? Because yesterday, there was over 100 people watching the watch-along with me, and I would guess over 50% of them wanted a 1 lap race at the end. You know? And I can't. I can't. It's ridiculous for me to ask that question, but it's not ridiculous for people to want it at the end of the race. I could leave that one percolating, but I know lots of people won't think of it in that way. You know? Like, I have no idea what that means. I think... I don't know where this whole nonsense comes from. But, well, okay. I'll tell you. Look, I am going so over time here. Right? I know where this has come from. Right? This has come from the FIA doing something, one race. Right? No, I get what you're saying. No, I understand that, Keith. Right? This has happened because in one race, the FIA and Formula One didn't follow the rules to the letter, and now everyone thinks this is the rule. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. That is the problem. People think that's the rule, so... And it doesn't matter how much people like me say this isn't the rule. They'll go, but, and cite the one race where the FIA has cocked up. Oh, honestly, I do get annoyed at myself because I get annoyed at myself because I get really passionate about it, and I look at other content creators, and they're really populist about everything, and they go with it, and they're much bigger. And I think, should I just sell out and go with the popular opinion, or should I still hold the sport to account for what it should be and what it always has been, rather than this new sort of hipster tiny attention span nonsense? I don't know. I don't know, but I don't see me changing. Probably, unfortunately, because I can. I love the sport, and if you know, I'm the type of person that would be watching it until my bloody deathbed, sort of thing. There is others that just don't care. They don't care. They don't care. K-Mags was a red flag because there's bits of metal everywhere, Reese, to be honest. It's just a shame. But anyway, I must go because I have other my other stream to attend to, which is Pit Lanes over on Twitch. If you want to come and watch me race some pretend race cars for a few hours, then please do so, guys. That's twitch.tv/Pit Lanes. But I'll be live here at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning with more TSK F1. Thanks a lot for listening to me rant and rave, guys. Just annoyed. See you later. Bye-bye.